Joining me today is Dennis Campbell. He is, of course, editor-in-chief of UK Progressive Magazine. He also hosts Worldview with Dennis Campbell on YouTube, which you can find at youtube.com/worldviewshow. A couple of days ago on the show, Dennis, we talked about an individual in Scotland who was fined £40,000 for Twitter slurs. Specifically, he was calling a pro-equality teacher a pedophile, and he ended up being fined £40,000, about $61,000. You now have another story here which will add to our discussion of free speech versus hate speech that we've kind of been having. So give us the details about Caroline Criado Perez.
Well, Caroline Criado Perez runs something called the womensroom.org.uk, and this is a very special group of people that work to get women into commentary positions as pundits. When the networks go around, it seems as though it's the usual suspects, and most of them are men here in the United Kingdom. And she has a huge database out there, and we've been using it for quite some time, and Caroline indeed is a friend. More than just the Women's Room, she's also taken on the Bank of England, because as you know, we have Her Majesty on the front of our banknotes, but on the back, it's pretty much been men, from Charles Darwin to scientists to, men of letters, etc. And she raised the question, as did another female member of parliament, why aren't we seeing more women on our banknotes? They were successful 2 weeks ago in getting Jane Austen, a very famous author here, put onto a banknote, the £10 note, one of the ones that will be coming out in the future. Well, that started a firestorm on Twitter, and there was quite a bit of abuse hurled at Caroline Criado Perez because she was interviewed by a number of organizations. And those threats then became threats of rape. And there appears to be a band of people out there that are a different level of troll on Twitter, and they actually were threatening rape and mayhem. She's had things such as bomb threats and home threats, etc. This got the attention of the Metropolitan Police, it got the attention of all members of the media, and it really heaped a lot of abuse onto Twitter themselves because they weren't doing anything to slow or to stop it. So for the last 10 or 11 days, she's been on virtually every major network. I've even seen her on MSNBC being mentioned for the fine work that she's done, as well as the threats. And Twitter was very slow off the mark reacting. They've now since come out, apologized to everyone who's been abused. And it's not just limited to women being abused and actually having to deal with rape charges. There's an autistic gentleman who'll be joining us on the program next week. We'll be talking about some of the abuse he's had to endure. I have the head of Tweet Smarter, Dave Larson, who's got something like 300,000 followers. He's going to be coming on to talk about Twitter's response. And we really have seen a tremendous outpouring of sympathy. Indeed, 2 people have been arrested here in the United Kingdom for the physical threats of rape made against this woman.
I have to say that this makes more sense to me than the £40,000 fine for the pedophile allegation in a very specific sense, which is if the fines if you're going to be fined a monetary amount and there's no criminal charges, presumably it's a civil matter, at least to some extent. And then it's a question of, does the abuse or insults or whatever it may be legally qualify as slander or libel? Was the victim's reputation damaged in some way? So on and so forth. Here we're really dealing with threats of crimes, and it's a very, very specific criminal type of situation. This, to me, is not a question of free speech or not. This is, authorities have determined that there are threats that are illegal. And this is very different to me, tell me if you disagree, than the kind of civil trolling that was the subject of the case we discussed a couple of days ago.
Indeed, and this is not this is not trolling. These are criminals. I mean, these are pathological people that are actually going out there. Anybody that threatens to rape another human being or to kill them or says that there's a bomb planted underneath your car, those are definite criminal acts. It's not a matter of, calling somebody a slut or something like that. This is a direct personal attack, and this is why the Metropolitan Police have finally gotten involved. And quite frankly, it's a discussion that needs to be had because, I mean, we've seen how cyberbullying can affect children. We've seen, bullying of any sort, how it can affect people. We've just recently had someone lose their life as a result of it here in the United Kingdom. They were found dead and hanging in their own bedroom because of threats they're receiving on Facebook and Twitter. So it's a very, very serious issue, and it has long needed attention. But unfortunately, most of these organizations, Twitter, Facebook, just kind of throw up their hands and say, free speech, we can't do anything about it, too bad.
Yeah,
Well,
and the other thing also I think that's important to mention is I'll get a lot of messages from people saying, do you realize what user XYZ25 has been doing to your YouTube videos, viciously attacking individuals who are commenting, so on and so forth? And I think that there are, and I'm not faulting the people for emailing me for this, but there is lack of coherence in terms of, is it the responsibility of the platform or the responsibility of the publisher to police all activity? We get 2,500 comments a day on YouTube, and it is literally impossible to manually look at every single one. But at the same time, it's very clear if you look at the activity of some of the trolls we have on YouTube that there's nothing policing them in any way. They're spamming our channel and many others. And whose responsibility is it ultimately?
Well, it's a good question, and it's one that deserves a lot more, careful discussion and answer. Because if we've also seen the same thing on our channels, and also from the magazine and on Twitter, where people just come and they'll flame you, and you can block them. I mean, you just block them, and they're gone, and they're no longer a part of the scenario. But the problem is that some of these people are so pathological. They open up a new account, and they come
Right.
out and they do whatever they have to do to just sort of rile you up and yank your chain a bit.
Sure. And then this is one of those things where one of the great things about these kind of entrepreneurial ventures like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram is the ability to scale significantly without taking on a huge infrastructure of staff and so on and so forth. That's one of the exciting things about kind of new media entrepreneurship. But the downside is that beyond fine-tuning filters and algorithms that look for this type of abuse, it can be very difficult to, without employing many people to physically put eyes on, to limit this type of online bullying and behavior.
Well, exactly. And it's more than just bullying. I mean, you've now crossed the line. When you threaten another human being with physical harm, whether that's rape or I'm going to kill you or I'm going to do something along those lines, you've moved into a completely different realm. And police don't have the resources with which to do it. And the companies are now being expected to. And let's not forget, Twitter's going to be doing a public flotation sometime in the next year. So the less costs that they can have going into the flotation, obviously, the better the share price is going to be. So to have to take on a whole infrastructure is a big deal. And, what we do on YouTube in itself, this is the future of broadcasting. Make no mistake about it. I mean, it was the cover story, I've got it right here, of the most recent Fortune magazine here in Europe, that, YouTube is it changes everything, as you've seen for the last 5 years and others. So it's going to be something they really are going to have to pay attention to.
Right. And then lurking very close beneath the surface of this is the discussion we've been having for a long time on this show about how laws and legislation relating to the internet seems to be lagging a little bit behind how the internet is actually used. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
Indeed. But, we're very glad that Caroline is safe, and that, that people are paying attention, and really our hat should be taken off to her, because she didn't back down. And for 2 weeks, she took the kind of abuse that most of us would have found absolutely withering. So full marks to her, and 3 cheers for actually standing up, and also for Twitter for finally standing up and saying, we're going to do something and make it easier for people to report this kind of abuse.
All right, Dennis Campbell, check out youtube.com/worldviewshow and youtube.com/bookviewtv. Dennis, thanks as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.